think you can do better than that. Come on.
Did y'all see obviously you've seen the mural here. This was painted by a local artist here in town. And when we came out just a few weeks ago and we were just visiting the site again, we stood here, it seemed like to me, for an hour and was just looking, and we read the dedication here on the memorial, and we just thought right then. I called Keith at your office.
Yeah.
And said, not Keith, Rick, you're Keith.
Yeah.
They're both doesn't have any hair, so I just couldn't get them. I said, we need to do something right here to honor our special. And you are here today. And we're so thankful for being here. My dad served in the Army. He is, of course, that was before I was here. He always dreamed of, as a kid, I've heard him tell this story so many times, of going to Missouri. And he would go to the end of our road, our gravel road. It was a mile dirt road, to get stamps for my grandmother to mail to my uncles that were in the service. And he would look for the Missouri license plates. Always had a desire to go to Missouri. And one day he received greetings. We have selected you to serve in our armed forces. And guess where they sent him? Fort Leonardwood, Missouri. The desires of his heart. He said 6 of the most miserable weeks in the cold. We have a great veteran that's here today. Not only a veteran of our armed service of the Korean War, but a veteran of gospel music and a member of the Southern Gospel Music Hall of Fame. And the Gospel Music Hall of Fame is Les Beasley. Come on here, Les. You've been legendary before I was ever born, brother.
Yeah, before your daddy was born.
Well, you're here before all of us. You helped God flip the switch when He said let there be light, right? I love.
Don't start making fun of old folks.
I'm not right. My appreciation goes very, very deep because of the television program Jubilee. You've probably seen that through the years. And it paved the way for a lot of us youngsters to come along and to follow in the footsteps of great men like Les and George and Glenn, and we appreciate them so much. But before, tell us about when you were in the Korean War. Very briefly.
You want some war stories?
Just give me a story, or something serious, or something that.
No, a lot of people don't know much about the Korean War. When the Marines went into battle in Korea, there was just a 30-mile perimeter around Pusan. That means the communists had almost taken over. And I'm not taking all of the credit, the Marines are not taking all the credit for that, but the Army was there. And I remember that we made the Incheon landing. I'm trying to be as fast as I can.
Go ahead, bro.
And then we're supposed to go to the east coast of North Korea and make a landing at Wonsan. And we always, the Marines always had a lot of respect for the cavalry. And we'd ask them, where's their horses, you know? Well, when we got to Wonsan, the cavalry had already secured the place. So we asked them, where's their horses? They said, well, we ate them. Well, they're waiting for you. A lot of matter between the cavalry and the Marines. We respected each other. But the Korean War made it possible for a lot of people to be free.
That's right.
And, we have made it possible for a lot of people to be free in all parts of this globe.
That's right.
And I don't apologize for any of it. And when I hear people who claim to be Americans running it down and apologizing, makes my blood boil. I guess I better hush.
Oh, you're just getting started now.
No.
Les for president and Claude for vice president.
That'd be a mess, wouldn't it?
But it'd be fun.
I just thought about that for a minute.
It'd be fun.
I'd like to be president for a day. Just one day.
What would
fix
you do?
everything.
You fix everything. Would it take that long?
Just one day I could do it. with Claude's help.
Just don't go hunting with him.
Why?
I heard about his stories in the
Oh,
Army.
Dick Cheney, you know, he shot that guy.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, it wasn't nice.
Who was the guy?
I don't know, he's not around much anymore.
He might need to be shot.
He's keeping,
Some people do.
he's keeping a low profile now. The Lord says, "Oh, lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the earth."
You're not supposed to be a comedian.
But you have set me up. Maybe you and I could do the freaking frack thing a little bit.
I set Claude up a lot.
You do. You do. You
You just listen to him, but sometimes it's... He says things that I really don't agree with.
It didn't matter much whether I agreed or not. He said, "Do it," and I did it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't regret being raised on a farm. Farm taught me a lot of things.
Like what?
I don't want to be a farmer anymore. No. That's not it. That's not it. Farming is a great teacher. A lot of discipline there, and there's always responsibility, and it's helped me in life.
Yes.
But now, I respect you, whether you're a nice person or not, because you... No, wait a minute now. That's not what I mean. I don't mean it funny.
Yes, it does.
No, I do not. This man's got one of the biggest hearts of any man I've ever known. Now, he has a hard shell because he's the president of NQC and he has to take care of problems. But he has got a huge heart, and his heart is very, very giving. But, and I appreciate that about you. But I appreciate today your honor and your service to this great country, this great nation.
Thank you. I thought you were going to tell that story that your daddy tells about when your shoe was all messed up there.
Oh yeah, the first time we sang with you on Jubilee, I was playing drums at that time, and I came in early that morning. My shoe sole had come loose from my shoe, and you took pity on me, and you said, "Son, you're having trouble in your shoe." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, let me help you." Mr. Les reached in his pocket. He pulled out a big, big roll of money, and it had rubber bands around it. So he took a couple of rubber bands away from the money and put around my shoe. It didn't flap anymore that day. But I have the rubber bands this morning. I'm going to give them back to you.
Okay, is this about enough of us?
Yeah. I'm going to give it back to him, but I want to share one other quick story. I know we've got a lot of veterans here. My uncle passed away, my mom's older brother, just about a month ago, and he was a World War II vet, and his detail was to liberate the concentration camps. And he didn't talk about that very much till the last 3 or 4 years of his life, but he was a great, great man. Another man that you know about is served in the Marines, Dr. James Murray.
Know him well.
Just retired from the presidency of the Oakland City University in Indiana, where I graduated, Scott Fowler graduated, Ernie Haas, we all went to school there, and he made it possible for me. I didn't know this story very long, but you guys had served in Korea at the same time and didn't know each other at that point.
Yeah, we were both in the hospital in Japan at the same time. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. He had taken a bayonet in the lungs. It was in the dead winter, very, very cold, and he wasn't breathing. His blood pressure was gone. And he tells this story, and I feel inadequate to tell this, his testimony. And he can't tell it without crying, because it was the grace of God that brought him to that hospital. But they had thrown him on the pile of the dead men because he wasn't breathing, his eyes wasn't blinking, they couldn't get any kind of response out of him. And he could hear everybody talking. He could everybody talking around him, but he couldn't say, he couldn't raise his hand, he couldn't blink, he couldn't look at them. And it was very, very cold, and because of that, he began to cry. He couldn't hear him. And one man looked back and said, "Murray's alive. He's crying." Picked him up out of that pile and put him on the truck and sent him to Japan. And, you know, we hear a lot of negative about veterans coming back from war. Can they insert themselves back into life? We know what Les has done. It's been great. Been great. Dr. Murray came home and was a 25-year retired colonel out of the Marines, but he was a preacher's kid. He knew he had to preach. And he went back to Oakland City and took over a college that was $4 million in debt, and when he left, it was $42 million to the good. After 31 years, and now he's retired from that. Now he's taken over the General Baptist Assembly in Missouri. So I praise God for the veterans who have had a stand, not just there, but still here today, who are making a difference in our lives.
Murray has made it possible for a lot of young people like you.
That's right.
Like yourself to get a good education.
We've got 7 kids there now that are learning. So the legacy continues. It doesn't stop with one gesture. It continues. And I just want to say one last thing. I'm blessed to see all of you here today. This is overwhelmed. You've overwhelmed us again. We were expecting 300 or 400 people, and I don't know what we have out here, but it doesn't matter. But we're grateful that you're here. We're grateful that you're here. Can I read just one course of this? This was written. This is all about freedom today. In the course, let's read this right here. Deep within the heart has always known that there is freedom, somehow breathed into the very soul of life. The prisoner, the powerless, the slave have always known it. There's something that keeps us reaching for the sky. And even life begins as a baby fights for freedom. And the songs we love to sing have freedom's theme. Some have walked through fire and flood to find a place for freedom. And some have faced hell itself for freedom's dream. Here's one this morning. I'm just going to read the chorus. Let freedom ring down through the ages from a hill called Calvary. Let freedom ring wherever hearts know pain. Let freedom echo through the lonely streets where prisons have no key. You can be free and you can sing. Let freedom ring.